And by the way, speaking of veterans, I appointed today the head secretary of the Veterans Administration, David Shulkin, and we'll do a news release in a little while. I'll tell you about David. He's fantastic. He's fantastic. He will do a truly great job.
You were the only holdover from the Obama administration. Were you surprised when President Trump picked you?
I guess I'd have to say yes.
It is the government's second largest department, with more than 300,000 employees and an annual budget of $200 billion.
Dr. David Shulkin is tasked with cleaning up one of the country's biggest bureaucracies.
I've come here for one reason, and that's to improve the lives of veterans, and that's what I'm focused solely on doing. My job as a private sector CEO to come to Washington to fix the system for our veterans, because I believe if there's any group of Americans who deserve the very best this country can give, it's our veterans.
Damn right.
Give us a sense of what you believe you need to accomplish at the VA.
Well, first of all, we have to get it right for our veterans. First of all, welcome to the White House. This is the time for us to really address these chronic problems that have affected veterans and in many ways have harmed veterans and their families by not dealing with these issues.
He really is.
He's liked seemingly on both sides of the aisle. That has to be a very good thing during these times.
He is the only cabinet secretary who is unanimously approved.
He actually cast 100 to nothing. When I heard that vote, I said, where did that come from? 100 to nothing, right? Passed 100 to nothing.
The president ever refer to you by your title, or is it always Mr. 100 to nothing?
And what it says is that when it comes to veterans, there aren't Republicans and there aren't Democrats. That we're talking about Americans who have all put their life on the line for this country. And what that vote says to me is that the country understands that when it comes to veterans, we're going to stick together, and this is an issue that unites us. And we may not see many issues where everybody agrees, but this is one. And I see it as a mandate for us to do what it takes to make sure that we're providing them with the very best service. One of the things most Americans don't understand is that when you send men and women off to war, it sometimes takes decades before you see the impact of that demand.
There are a lot of important jobs in government, Mr. Secretary, but yours may be most important.
So I knew where the problems were. I had a plan. We're giving veterans more choice. We're updating our systems so that the people who work in the VA have better tools. And we're making sure that we do this job so that we earn back the trust of our veterans. And so we're looking for a system that takes the best of what VA has to offer, which is tremendous services for veterans, but also supplement it with what the VA is not doing and use the private sector. So it's an integrated approach to care.
But he is making big changes, and I think President Trump has sort of unleashed him. There is a lot still coming ahead.
VA needs to get better, but it can't do it alone. And the system that's going to work best for veterans is an integrated system between the VA system, a strong VA system, working with the private sector.
To begin by thanking Secretary David Shulkin for the incredible progress that he's making at the VA. Tremendous strides. Thank you very much, David. We appreciate it. The veterans appreciate it, I can tell you that. I actually practice medicine from here in Washington in Grants Pass, Oregon, where I take care of patients using telehealth. We're going to be issuing a regulation that allows our VA providers to provide telehealth services from anywhere in the country to veterans anywhere in the country, whether it's in their homes or any location. We call it Anywhere to Anywhere VA Healthcare. That's a big deal. Secretary Shulkin is here. You have done an incredible job.
He's worked quickly to change the VA, getting bipartisan laws passed.
My single clinical priority is to reduce veteran suicides. Today, unfortunately, we have 20 veterans a day who are taking their life through suicide. We're taking an unprecedented action today in that we will be covering all separating military members who are transitioning into civilian life, 100% of them with a mental health benefit for 12 months. But we now have same-day services for primary care and mental health in every one of our VAs. We've published our wait times so everybody can see where they are. We're the only system in the country that has done that.
At the end of the day, did you get wait times down?
We did.
Thank you for your strong leadership of the Department of Veterans Affairs. Our services to our veterans are getting better every day because of the leadership of our president and because of Secretary David Shulkin.
I've decided that VA will adopt the same EHR system as the Department of Defense.
There's no doubt that the VA is in better shape than it was in 2014. Today, the VA has shorter wait times than you would find in the private sector, and that's really because of the hard work that was done by the men and women at the VA. But that doesn't mean that this is a system where we should say job done. There's a lot more that needs to be done. Our men and women who served deserve the very best this country can offer, and we have to continue to work towards that goal.
As the president spoke to Congress, Shulkin was deemed the designated survivor.
I also want to express our appreciation for Secretary Shulkin, who is implementing the dramatic reform throughout the VA. It's got to be implemented. If it's not properly implemented, it will never mean the same thing, but I have no doubt it will be properly implemented. Right, David? Better be David. We'll never have to use those words. We'll never have to use those words on our David. We will never use those words on you, that's for sure.
Veterans deserve a strong VA, that when somebody raises their hand to defend our country, they have to know when they come back that we're there for them should they need us. And so when it came to the issue of privatization of the VA, I simply stood up and said, I am not willing to go that far. You have to know what you believe in and be willing to stand up for your principles. And so I worked hard to make every day count, because it might have been my last day.
So the tweet fired you?
Yes.
You were fired by tweet.
Yeah, I didn't have a lot of warning.
Dr. Shulkin criticized the administration this morning in the New York Times, alleging he was fired because he disagreed with plans to privatize much of the VA's functions.
And the big issue that I clashed with the administration on was how much we wanted to privatize the VA.
Describe in one word why 17 people would leave cabinet positions. What would you say?
Well, I'd say unbelievable, but certainly chaotic.
A brand new insider account of the Trump administration detailing utter chaos, secret meetings, infighting, betrayal, and backstabbing.
The VA should not be politicized.
But I do believe that while our job is as public servants to uphold the Constitution and to do what's right for the country, that we do not give a blind political loyalty to any administration, that you have to stand up for what you believe in and you have to have principles for what you believe in.
Why do you think more and more people are coming out now whose jobs are on the line and at stake by coming out? They're currently serving.
I think people are seeing a real risk to our democracy and seeing the trust being eroded within government and feeling a real duty. People who serve in government often have other choices. I came from the private sector myself, but our belief is that citizens need to do the right thing to make this government work, and speaking out when they see something wrong, it's an American value.
I think that we need to stop attacking each other. I think we need to start really respecting people in public service, and particularly when it comes to veterans, we need to really recreate a bipartisan environment, because we have much more in common when it comes to making sure that people who enter the military aren't entering as a Democrat or Republican, but they're really entering for their love of country and their protection of the Constitution.
I think we need a reset of the way that we treat people in Washington, and we need to make public service more doable, and it really shouldn't be this hard to serve your country.
You write about that so well in the book. Mr. Secretary, thank you very much.
Thank you.
You're right. It should not be this hard to serve your country, our broken government, and the plight of veterans. Read this book. It's an important one.
And the greatest privilege of being secretary was spending time with the people who have sacrificed for this country and their families and who continue to serve. And you can't help but be inspired.
Suffice it to say, I've covered this very, very closely for decades. No one did more for veterans, and I'm saying no one, than this gentleman.